safety car lights are out. The Jaguar pulls off in the pit lane, and Stefan Salazar and Anthony Davison lead out from Loic Duval in third position. He's in the third of the Peugeots, but right in among the mix there is the Toyota-powered Lola, the number 12 Rebellion car. That's a gold, red and white car. Right in the mix, put a lap down for Jerome Bleekemolen, but he will not want to go too much further back, Jeremy.
No, that car's been running pretty nicely. First time out for that Nissan RV8K ALMS engine. It's a brand new engine, one of the new LMP1 cars for 2011, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see how that car is developed over the next couple of months.
Yeah,
Nissan.
Yes, you did.
Toyota engine, I beg your pardon.
you'll get a slap. Wishful thinking. But I tell you what, 4 Japanese manufacturers in there. There's the HPT now. Here's GT action with Tony Vilander now behind the wheel of the leading 458. And look at what's going on behind him as Bill Oberlin is trying to muscle his way past the Ford GT. He's in second place at the moment. The Ford GT's dropped back down through the order, but not by much. But they need to get through. And right in there as well, the 045 and Patrick Long up into third position. He's gone by Jan Magnussen, and the Scandinavian will not like that at all. So Vilander in the Ferrari, from Oberlin in the BMW, from Patrick Long in the Porsche, and then it's Jan Magnussen. So again, different cars in the top positions in GT, and they're separated by about the width of a phone book. So
a shuffling around of a little bit of the positions there. All of the drivers have changed, I believe, except for number 51 Ferrari. Jimmy Bruni remains at the wheel of the AF Corsa car.
He's obviously managed to get himself in there with super glue, or they've managed to lose the crowbar that they were going to use to take him out of that. Jimmy having way too much fun, having qualified on pole position at the moment as the field streams down the Ullman Straight down towards turn 17, which later on you will find from our pictures is very well named as Sunset. And here's the battle for GT. In third position at the moment is the Corvette. There's a touch, and Pat Long goes around, and this could be big danger, and it is, because the ESM car's got in hard on the left-hand side. That was Johannes van Overbeek, and that car is destroyed at the rear end. Good airborne, nothing Johannes can do. He's an innocent bystander, but he's now, having been a passenger, he is now going to be a spectator for the rest of the race. Into the pit lane comes the Corvette, and there's a full course caution. IMSA reacting very quickly there. That's a high-speed accident, and there's damage to the GM Chevy Corvette. The 04 car comes in along pit lane. Jan Magnussen will not be happy. A tap on the right rear while the car was unloaded by the Porsche on the inside. And Pat Long went around as well, but I think, Jeremy, that Pat's gotten away with it. There's some small damage to the Corvette, but the real loser and the innocent bystander was the ESM car. Kelly is down in the Corvette pit.
And as we know, these procedures, they're going to put some fuel in the car first, and they're giving it a good look over. And, man, all eyes are on this 04 at Corvette. Oliver Gavin with his hands on his head. But they're going to assess the damage right now and see what's going on there on the rear. We'll have to see what adjustments they have to make, if it's just a bodywork deal, if there's something more to it. We're going to keep our eyes on it.
Well, they're working. The pits are closed at the moment. They're working on the damage that's being caused. I'm guessing what they're thinking is that they'll take the penalty. Now, that is the ESM car that is stranded at the side of the track. Here's a replay of what went on. Look,
and I think you'll see the car
bounced into
him. Yep.
He's bounced into him. That's nobody's fault, really nobody's fault.
Right.
I'm sure Magnussen will be unhappy with Pat, but you can't blame Pat Long there. But look at the impact that Johannes van Overbeek got. The tyres did their job and absorbed some of the energy.
That was a heck of an impact, and it's kind of one of those things going to have to hit it on board there with Patrick Long. And look at them, they're going side by side into the corner here. It was certainly Magnussen led into the corner. Could he have left Patrick Long a little bit more room? Yes. Did Patrick Long need to try and dive back down again the apex of the corner? Possibly not. So I think there's certainly some blame to be apportioned both ways there. But if I had to place the blame more on one than the other, I'd have to say Patrick perhaps should have given up that position. I mean, Magnussen had a better line into the corner from an outside line, and it is, we know it's rough down there. Look at that, the wheel come off, I think, that ESM Ferrari.
Yeah, that's a rear
very
end,
unfortunate accident.
That's a rear wheel. You can see the drive shaft on there. Johannes van Overbeek still in the car, but all precautions being taken before the taking him out. That was a heavy rearward impact. I've got to say, having seen that first replay, there was a huge moment for Patrick Long where the car was airborne at the front end and washed out by a good, maybe as much as 18 inches, maybe a little bit more than that. And the problem is, Jeremy, as you well know, you've raced, that you're on the ragged edge all the time, and particularly through there when your car's moving around, it takes a gust of wind sometimes to knock you offline and get the back end of the car coming round, and the slightest tap there, because the car is on the very, very edge of adhesion, means that then from then on, poor Jan was a passenger, but it's Johannes van Overbeek for Extreme Speed Motorsports. Let's have just one more look at it, Jeremy, and let's see again the front end of that Porsche, the way it's bouncing around. This, for me, the best view on this one.
Yeah, and the cars are all bucking around, and you can see, I mean, Patrick's got a full right-hand lock on there as he turns into the corner, but as it jumps up in the air, you can see the concrete runways here at Sebring Airport, at what used to be an airport, and you know, it's rough. It's the concrete strips there. They are uneven, and the car is going to be in the air quite a bit through that corner. We've seen it all weekend long. We see it every year we come here, and that's a very unfortunate accident, a very heavy impact for the Extreme Speed Motorsport Ferrari.
Good news in checking with the team. They said the driver's okay. That's the first thing. As far as the car, they're still unclear as to whether it is fixable or not. They say at this point they're going to have to drag it back in here, get a better feel for it. I mean, obviously it looks pretty disabled out on the track. You saw how hard the hit is. But again, this is a 12-hour race. If they can get something into the back, get it fixed, change it over, it's possible. One of the things they've talked about with the new 458s is in some ways they're easier to work on. The quarter panels come off. It's easier to dive in and start working on things, unlike the 430. So when they get it back, it may have the ability, if it's not too bad, to get those repairs and hopefully at least get back out and maybe score some points.
Well, there's a drive shaft and a rear upright that needs replacing as well. Looking at that replay again, and we've got the benefit of HD monitors in here and all the looks that you can possibly get thanks to our great ALMS TV crew here. It seemed to me as though it was the Porsche, the front end of the Porsche, coming off the ground, Jeremy, it was almost like it was on the rebound of the suspension. It had been fully compressed, and then on the rebound of that, it was just at the wrong point of the circuit that coincided with another bump, and basically from the compression up. Now, we are hearing that there's going to be some penalties from the last safety car period for the 004 Robertson Racing Doran Ford GT. It will be a stop and 4-minute hold. That's basically a couple of laps. That was improper pass-by procedure. And all the teams have been warned about that. If you try and gain any advantage, we will take it back from you. Now, down in the Corvette pit lane, frantic work going on. Kelly Stavist has got the wrenches out and is watching what's going on. Kelly.
And clearly some damage to this right rear suspension. That's what the crew's been working on. And as we said before, this is one of the best pit crews in the business, so they're going to get it done as quickly as possible. But definitely a timely repair here, and really pretty devastating for this 04 Corvette that looked so strong. But looks like these guys might be, they're making some progress. Hopefully they'll get it back out here soon.
So that's a big change in the GT running order. Tony Vilander leads in the 062 Risi Ferrari from Bill Oberlin in the 55 BMW. In third, Giancarlo Fisichella in the 51 AF Corsa. Anthony Davison leads at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
There was a town held captive by an evil gas pump. It fed on people's hard-earned money. But along came the Michelin Man, who reminded them the right tire changes everything. And with fuel-efficient tires in place, that evil gas pump wasn't so evil anymore. Michelin Energy Saver AS tires can help save up to 109 gallons of fuel. Michelin, a better way forward.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
The party zone down at turn number 10. There's a story to be told there every single year, and that's just as much a part of Sebring folklore, the personality and the atmosphere of this historic circuit as the bumps, the turns, the corner names. The fans really make this event. That's the remnant of the Extreme Speed Ferrari, and that is a very damaged motor car. Scott Sharp's team have had zero luck here over the past couple of years, with his car going up in flames last year, and now an accident that was absolutely nothing to do with Johannes van Overbeek, who is out of the car. We've been told by the team at least that he's fine, and that's the good news. The carbon fibre and the metal will mend, but it will take quite some mending for that team. And that what was a pristine 458 Italia is now looking a little pre-owned, Jeremy.
Yeah, it is, and you're absolutely right. You know, Johannes van Overbeek, he was doing a nice job there, just minding his own business and running along very, very competitively. And when those two cars spun in front of him, there is absolutely nowhere to go. I mean, you are flat out committed to the throttle at that point. There's really, you can try turning out a little bit to the left there, but not enough to avoid two spinning cars. And you just clipped. I guess it was the Corvette that he clipped, wasn't it? And from there on, it's barriers all the way. So it's good to see that Johannes is okay, but real shame for Extreme Speed Motorsports. They do have one more bullet in their gun. Of course, the other car is still running, but the Corvette has been into the pits and has been sent back out again.
Yeah, it's down there getting some work. Let's go down to the pit lane and find out what's been happening with it. Here's Kelly with their program manager, Doug Feehan.
And the 04 Corvette has gone back out onto the race course, but Doug, another victim out there on the track. You've seen the replays. What was your take on the whole incident?
Well, just a classic, close racing Sebring event. Two cars trying for the same spot. Lizard went in a little bit hot, hit the curb, bounced up into the Corvette. They both kind of pirouetted around, and the Ferrari came around with no place to go, and, unfortunately they knocked themselves out as well. So took us a couple laps. We got it fixed. Long race. We'll be back in there.
You've seen a lot of these 12 hours of Sebrings. I'm sure you've seen a lot of things, but have you seen traffic and some of the congestion that we've seen out there this year?
No, this is the largest entry, I think, maybe for the last 30 years. I don't remember any recent times when there's been this many cars, which always makes it exciting. As I said, it's 25% great car, 25% great team, and 50% good luck. At that particular moment, it wasn't particularly good luck for us.
Until that point, you felt like the 04 had a shot at this?
Oh, absolutely. I think you only need to look at the running times, and there were 3 or 4 cars that had pretty much separated themselves early on. But, as the track changes and it comes back, you make the right choice on air pressure, you make the right tire choice, you catch a brake on the yellow. You only have to look. I mean, there's 10 or 12 cars all on the lead lap at least. So that's anybody's ball game with the amount of confusion that's going to continue for the next 10 hours.
Thanks, Doug.
You bet.
Well, he's not looking desperately happy, as you can imagine. That's his leading car out of contention for the moment. And a lot of work though going on the right rear of that car. Tommy Milner, though, the new boy in the new boy in the team. It's Richard Westbrook and Tommy Milner. Poor Richard hasn't even been in the car yet in the race, in the 04 car, but in the 03 car, Tommy Milner is in 4th position. Ahead of him in 3rd, Giancarlo Fisichella in the 51. That's the pole-sitting AF Corsa 430. And then Bill Oberlin in 2nd place for the 55 BMW. That's the untroubled BMW Motorsport entry. And Tony Villander in the 458 Italia, the Risi Competizione car, is leading GT at the moment.
Yeah, so Tommy Milner switching across from the BMW team from last year. Very impressive he has been the last couple of seasons driving for BMW, and now he's going to ply his trade in a Corvette for the first time. He's so excited about that opportunity, and he is going to be a great addition to that GM Corvette camp.
Let's have a look at the timing and scoring and give you the places at the front of the field. 2 hours and 12 minutes have elapsed of our 12, and if you prefer, the leaders are on lap number 55. The double nickel lap then for Stefan Sarrazin, who leads in Peugeot number 8, ahead of Loic Duval in another Peugeot, but this is last year's car, the Orica Matmut car.
And neither of those two cars has pitted during this caution period.
Correct, and that's very important because the first car who has is a 5-time champion here at Sebring. There he is, Tom Christensen, just trying to clean off and heat up his Michelin rubber as he cruises around in second gear in the Audi R15 TDI Plus. So he's got a pit stop in hand from the two cars ahead of him on the timing and scoring monitor. In fourth position, a stealthy move up for Simon Pagenaud in the 0-1. This is the defending ALMS champion Highcroft team, and they came into the pits as well there. David Brabham giving up that car. Anthony Davidson in the number 7 Peugeot is behind them. There is Simon Pagenaud. Should just mention again www.highcroftRacing.com/help-Japan if you'd like to know how to put your hands in your pockets or purses and donate some money to the disaster victims over there on the other side of the world. Making up the top 6, Pierre Rague in the number 15. That's the first of the York Racing Pescarolos that he shares with Mathieu Lehay and Guillaume Moreau. That's your top 6 all prototype 1 categories. In PC, Johnny Morlam leads in the 038 prototype challenge car from the 005 in second place. That's one of the core motorsport cars in second position, which at the moment, in fact that's a change of driver I think in there, has got John Bennett in there because it was Ryan, the Ryan DL that started that car, wasn't it? So
yeah, Jonathan Bennett's the team owner there.
Yeah. And in third place in LMPC, Jens Pedersen in the 036. That's the Genoa Racing, one of the 2 Genoa Racing cars, and again he's got that car relatively racing. That is the pit lane, and that is the 004 Robertson Racing Ford.
And that is the car that's going to serve a penalty shortly for improper wave-by procedure earlier on. Ah, yes, well remembered. So trying to steal a little bit of a march, and they have been pinged for that. GT we've given you, GT Armiston, still the Jean-Luc Roda driven 63. That's the Proton competition car that he shares with Richard Leitz and Christian Reed. Jean-Luc Roda, the Porsche Cup winner last year, the International Porsche Cup. For every Porsche driver who is not a works driver around the world, they amass points on a relatively complicated basis. You have degrees of difficulty almost for different championships and multipliers, and Jean-Luc Roda captured that championship last year thanks to his run in the GT Open among other things with Richard Leitz. Second in GT is the 57. We haven't talked about that car too much, and it's Michele Arugolo who is at the wheel of that car. That's the Krone Racing Ferrari. And GTC we've now got on the top page, so we can talk about them as well, and that is the Alex Job Racing car. Bill Sweetler's been in that car for quite a long time actually, ahead of Spencer Pumpali in the second of the GTC racing cars. That's the first of the TRG cars, the 066, and Sebastian Blecker-Molen is in third place now in the Black Swan racing car, having taken over from Damien Faulkner, who started that car. And in fourth place in GT Challenges, Henrique Cisneros, originally from Venezuela, now lives in Miami. And Cisneros is kind of an interesting story. He drives for the NGT Motorsport team. His co-driver is Carlos Kaufman, and also Sean Edwards, the son of former Formula 1 and sports car driver Guy Edwards, and that car was crashed heavily yesterday, and they've done a good job to get that car back up towards the front, but now we are ready to go back to green. And 2 Peugeots, 2 908s, 1 for the new regs, 1 for the old regs. Stefan Sarrazin in the works car, Loic Duval in the Orica Run cars. They come to the line. Tom Christensen, the 4th car, back in line, and he wants to dispatch the 12th car of Jerome Blecker-Molen, and then does so into the first corner. The number 2 Audi trying to get back on terms. Remember,
remember, Tom Christensen, heavier load of fuel, but newer Michelin rubber. The Peugeot's elected to stay out and are now a pit stop behind. And this is I wasn't sure that was a great tactical move by Audi beforehand, but that's why I'm sitting in the commentary box, and people like Wolfgang Ulrich and Howden Haynes and Lena and everyone else are on the pit wall doing the strategy for Audi, and that's why they've won Le Mans and Sebring lots and lots of times, and I'm still sitting in the commentary box.
Yeah, but that, as you can see, with all the other pit stops that took place with the other contenders, Christensen's moved himself back up to 3rd place now, so it really hasn't cost him very much at all. And as you say, he now has the benefit of running on fresh tyres. So here's the penalty box there. There's Patrick Long is serving a penalty, also the 0-4.
My goodness me, that is the penalty box, which looks like the penalty box or the sin bin after an ice hockey fight. There's so many people in there. We've got avoidable contact for the 45 car.
Patrick Long, yeah, avoidable contact, that was called. And you know, I'm not really going to disagree with that, because Magnussen had, you know, he was pretty much clearly ahead as they were turning into the corner, and right down towards the apex is when Patrick Long tried to make that pass down to the inside. You know, at this stage in the race particularly, that's awfully early to be making that sort of an aggressive manoeuvre, so I'm not really going to quibble with Bo Barfield on that one. Patrick Long I admire massively. He's a great driver. He's a very upstanding individual as well, and it's going to be interesting to see what he's taken when he gets out of the car.
As McNish goes for 2nd place, and Loic Duval doesn't make it too difficult for him as the Corvette rejoins out of pit lane, and Alan McNish goes back up into 2nd place as he enters turn number 1. Duval will sit around in the mirrors there and try and make life difficult for Alan McNish. Now that's interesting, Jeremy. Excuse me, it's Tom Christensen, isn't it, in that car? We put him in there quite some time ago. What's interesting about that for me, Jeremy, is that those are 2 quote-unquote grandfathered cars, but we know that Audi have worked hard on that car pretty much just for this one race, so that car has had a little bit more development, and certainly they know this car probably a little better round here than Orica do with the older Peugeot that we're seeing now.
Indeed so, and Loic Duval, he's another rookie here at Sebring. So, you know, the team are running that car here for the first time. The drivers are here for the first time. So they've certainly got an awful lot to learn, but you know, they are running for the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup. So that is important. It is imperative that they are here for this race.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Just going back to the Patrick Long thing, I agree with your assessment of what went on. I think Patrick was probably a little bit ambitious with where he was coming from. Ultimately, I don't think the accident at the end was his fault, because I think that was the bumps more than anything else. But I think he put himself in a position to have the accident where he could have backed out of it. So I'm sort of half agreeing with you. Yeah. I think he was perhaps a bit ambitious, but I don't think that was intentional, and I don't think he expected that. I don't think he expected that consequence.
Yeah, fair comment. But then Pat, you know, he's been racing here for a long time. He knows what Sebring's all about. He knows how rough it is down the inside of that corner, and he also knows Jan Magnussen isn't a guy that's going to give you any more room than he needs to. So anyhow, the penalty has been assessed, and we also saw the Corvette serving a penalty as well there as well. That would have been for working on the car. It came into the pits while the pits were effectively closed, and that is the penalty for that transgression of the rules.
So Tom Christensen now in 2nd place, some 2.8 seconds further back from the leader. Loic Duval is disappearing nicely into the mirrors. Anthony Davison getting up to speed now, and this is the first time the former Formula 1 pilot has had a run out this year, defending champion of course from last year's race, and the first time he'd won a race for quite some time, and he said it really made a difference to the rest of his season. He's better known perhaps in the UK at least as being part of the analysing team for BBC Radio 5 Live's Formula 1 coverage, and he said it really made a difference to how he felt about himself, even when he was talking about other people's driving, because he hadn't done a lot of competitive driving before that, and got a good win here last year, and it certainly, I think, changed his attitude when he was watching other people as well. He's been a real good addition to we've had him a few times on our radio programmes, as well. So Jeremy, tactically, Peugeot, Audi, who's got it best, who's got it right so far?
Certainly no one's made any mistakes yet. They're running to their own schedules. They know what they're planning to do. They know how they're going to approach the race. They know there's still an awful long way to go. Something like, what, 9.5 hours. So, at this point in the game, you want to make sure you don't shoot yourself in the foot. And talking of shooting yourself in the foot, we've seen quite a few GT contenders do exactly that for one reason or another. And incredibly now, after only 2 hours and 20 minutes of the race, we've only got 7 GT cars on the same lap, I think, as each other. Maybe 8. Yes, I think it's 8 cars on the lead lap, and that's surprising. Yeah, we had a huge field in GT this year. There's the 5 GT-AM entries and 19 professional entries, effectively, or 19 proper GT cars, and so it's a huge class, but only 8 of them on the lead lap after 2.5 hours. I'm surprised at that. And what's interesting, one of the teams that's been flying underneath the radar screen a little bit is that Falcon Tires Porsche, car number 017. It's Martin Waginger who's driving at the moment. I believe it was Brian Sellers who drove the first stint in that car, qualified it yesterday. That team are running under fresh management this year. Derek Walker, massive amount of experience, initially in Formula One, then for many, many years with Penske Racing here in the US. Then he was involved in the Porsche IndyCar teams as well, and lately he's been running in Champ Car in the IRL, but he's taken over the running of this number 017 car, thoroughly enjoying the atmosphere in the American Le Mans Series. And it's a good little tight little organization there, and they've done a lot of development on the tires, has Falcon, and they come here. Last year, of course, we saw Wolf Hensler lead the early stages of the race, a stunning effort that was, but the tires didn't last too well through a whole stint. That's what the Falcon engineers have worked on through last year and over the winter, and they are confident now of being able to run competitively throughout an entire stint.
And one of the things that Falcon and the other 3 major tyre manufacturers that are represented here in the American Le Mans Series, and long may it remain a competitive formula. No spec tyre rules here, no single manufacturer here in the American Le Mans Series and in ACO sports car racing. At the start of the race, the track temperature was a toasty 73 degrees Fahrenheit. About 40 minutes ago, it was already up to 88 degrees. And those changing temperatures here, the changing conditions here, are a part of what the engineers have to deal with, and certainly for a manufacturer like Michelin, and the other manufacturers follow suit with this, the tyre engineers that are assigned to a particular team, or indeed sometimes even a particular car, they're always described by Michelin to us as, look, they're a part of that car's team, they just wear a slightly different looking shirt. Here's the incident again that Patrick Long has just been called for and into the pits for a stop-and-go penalty. Jan Magnussen was the driver of the Corvette, but it was Johannes van Overbeek who came off worst, Jeremy.
Yeah, it certainly was. Again, you could see from that replay there that the Porsche, all 4 wheels of the Porsche were off the ground briefly there. And that's a great shot as well, isn't it?
Oh, that's a great piece of avoidance by the Orica Corvette that was out there. The rear suspension's already broken before he hits the wall, and it hits the wall with such ferocity that it rips the right rear wheel off and pulls the right-hand door open. And the whole rear clip, the whole drive shaft and upright and wheel and tyre combination left in the middle of the track, and actually pretty good avoidance by all the drivers that they didn't run into that. Johannes out of the car, he's shaking up. The team tell us he's okay. The car will need some work before Long Beach in a few weeks' time here for the second round of the American Le Mans Series. Another race that you can see flag-to-flag coverage on ESPN.com. And ESPN and ABC sharing the coverage of the American Le Mans Series throughout the 2011 series. Christensen has got down to work here really nicely, and he's pulled back Stefan Sarazen to down just 0.2 of a second now, having taken almost 2 seconds out of the leader on the last lap alone.
Yeah, and you can see that is the gap between first and second. We're on board the second place car of Tom Christensen. There is the race leader, Stefan Sarazen, right ahead of him on the road. And once again, it takes the Audi a little bit of time to get up to the same pace as the Peugeots once we go back to green. But right now, Tom Christensen is applying the pressure to the race leader.
Remember, this race leading Peugeot owes us a pit stop before the Audi. It's on older tyres than the Audi. If Christensen can get with him, he may actually be able to put a real-time pass on him, and he's right up behind the Peugeot now as they hit traffic going through Cunningham Corner and heading out towards Tower Turn. This is very, very impressive indeed by the 8 times Le Mans champion Tom Christensen. What a career he has had, first with Team Yost and BMW, and latterly of course with Audi and Bentley. One of the sports car drivers of his generation. Indeed, his career may well define this era of sports car racing in the last 10 or 15 years. And he's in position now as they hit the back straight. Now, new, smaller engine but very slippery aero on the Peugeot. Bigger engine but restricted on Christensen's Audi, and I'm afraid it's the new design as far as the top speed is concerned, as he goes through the traffic, through the lead battle for the GTC category. And Bill Sweedler with Sebastian Blekemolen right up his tailpipes there as the leaders came through, and both had to keep their nerve there. And in fact, Sweedler's gone back to second, and Blekemolen's used that opportunity to take the lead of GTC while we were watching the leaders.
That was briefly, I think, 4 wide almost going into turn 17, yes. Wasn't it? Fraught stuff there, but as you say, it is now Sebastian Blekemolen who's taken over the lead in GT Challenge in the 054 car, just ahead of Bill Sweedler. I think Spencer Pumpelly might have made the pass as well. There's 3 cars absolutely nose to tail in GT Challenge, and the 4th place car of Henrique Cintaneros is not far behind either.
Christensen will be cursing his luck there, because he clearly felt he dragged up to the back of the Peugeot. He doesn't have the ponies down the back straight, although he's got almost twice the displacement of the Peugeot ahead of him. The car's been strangled down. It's not allowed to produce full horsepower. This is the end of the line for the R15, its final outing in international competition.
Yeah, that restrictor on that engine is down to 33.5 millimeters, down 4 millimeters, so more than 10% smaller air restrictor on that engine from last year. Cost them about 150 horsepower in total, and it's certainly changed the drivability of that car as well. But the new Peugeot also, that's running the small engine, so again the horsepower is about the same between these 2 cars. They just achieved it in different ways. And it's interesting too to me that, you know, once again last year we saw the different engines between the Peugeots and the Audis. We saw the Peugeot with their V12 and the Audi with the V10. This year the new Peugeot, of course, has a V8, and a new Audi, when we see it, the R18, which is going to be testing the next couple of days, as a V6 turbo engine.
Yeah, interesting, they've gone different ways there. There'll be a straight 6 as well, a 2-litre in the Aston Martin when we get to Paul Ricard. In a few weeks' time, we'll see that. We'll be covering that live on radiolemans.com. For those of you around the world, only in audio, I'm afraid. We can't stretch to the high def that we have here on ESPN3.com. As the leader continues to lap, Stefan Sarrazin won 52-1 last time. Christensen's on it again and carves his way through traffic down towards turn 7, and Jeremy, he's once again got the leader in sight, and this time he'll be hoping that the traffic plays into his hands.
Yeah, a couple of Porsches there. One of the GT Challenge cars are going to go past fairly easily, and then the Falcon Tires GT car right ahead of him as well. We certainly know that Tom Christensen is a master in traffic. He knows how to play the game in sports car racing. He slides down the inside there, trying to keep the pressure on the race leader, Stefan Sarrazin.
Keep our eyes on the battle at the head of the field, but we welcome to the ESPN3.com booth Roger C. Hood, who has the fabulous title of Motorsports Technical Advisor for Mobil 1 in the United States of America. Roger, thanks for joining us. First of all, are you enjoying the race so far? It's been a great start to the event. Why do Mobil 1 has been part of motorsport so long as there's been motorsport, pretty much, and certainly in the synthetic field we know there's nothing better. But why do you put your name on a race like the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring? Because, you know, money has to change hands to get your sponsorship decals up there. What do you feel you get from it?
Well, this is our greatest opportunity to have a testing ground for our product in a number of OEM environments, and it's the best way for us to get the product through to the consumer eventually.
effectively all of these cars that run your oils are mobile test beds, I suppose. Do we actually get technology transfer from the track to the oils that goes into our street cars?
Very much so. In fact, a number of our partnerships, as I said before, being a testing ground, our track-to-road technology strategy provides for the eventual learnings from the track, going to the consumer product to provide, fuel economy, long-time engine protection. As you know, engines today, even in consumer products, are very highly tuned machines, and they require a highly refined and a high-quality, high-performing oil as Mobil 1.
How do those partnerships work exactly? How do you interact with the guys who are using your product?
Well, typically, and as in the case with Corvette, where we're on our 15th year with our collaboration with Corvette Racing, we work together to provide them with engine oils that will perform to their specifications in the extreme temperatures and pressures from auto racing.
Tell me about racing oils. I mean, they are under such pressure out there. Mobil 1 is, a well-known brand. I've got an own Porsche that runs on it. But tell me about where racing oils are in terms of technology and how much work has to go into it year on year, because presumably, like any form of motorsport, you can't stand still, same as the engines, the tyres, or the chassis builders can't stand.
That's correct. And in fact, a lot of people don't realize this, but Mobil 1 started as a racing oil back in 1972 before it was finally introduced to the public in 1973. Since then, obviously, engines have changed, races have changed, more power, more stress, better metals, better and more severe conditions have required that the lubricants also, the different engines have different appetites for oil, and therefore we need to change the formulations to correspond. And so just last year, in fact, it's been 4 years in the making, we've introduced our new product line of Mobil 1 racing oils, which are being used by the Corvette team and a number of other teams in different race venues.
Roger, thank you very much, and thank your colleagues at Mobil 1 for continuing to support what is one of the world's great motor races, and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thanks very much.
Roger Hood, the motorsport technical advisor for Mobil 1 in the US, and whilst we were talking, Jeremy has been watching the timing and scoring screens, and the GT battle has hotted up again.
GTC, as has the GTC battle, but here is a battle for GT, and it's Bill Auberlin who's out in front with Tony Vielander in second place, and there in third is Giancarlo Fisichella, Tommy Milner and Joey Hand right in the battle as well. In fact, Joey Hand has just found his way past Tommy Milner. There's the Corvette is chasing that BMW. That is the battle for fourth and fifth in GT, as we see the race leader Stefan Sauer moving through on the inside as well. And changes also in GT Challenge. We saw it actually on the screen. We saw Spencer Pumpelly in the TRG car number 66 working his way past Sebastian Vettel. I think that's the fourth different leader at least that we have seen in GT Challenge in the still relatively early stages of this race.
Yeah, and Spencer's come up through the field there. He's genuinely passed people on the circuit, because the last time we were talking about, he was down in third position, and he's made those positional passes, and that's a really good stint.
Yeah, so that's pushed Bill Sweedler back to third place in GT Challenge at the moment.
Across the line of the start-finish here at Sebring, down into turn one, pass for position in GT. A BMW going down the inside. That BMW is Joey Hand in the fourth place. BMW M3, and the man he's trying to get by, well, you might have heard of this chap. I think he might have a future in motor racing. Giancarlo Fisichella has got a bit of experience of driving and clearly felt... Oh, and he's drifted wide. I was just about to say, Fisichella didn't defend turn one, but in turn three, just lost the back end on turning on the AF Corsa Ferrari, and Joey Hand needs no second invitation and goes through to a new third place in GT.
So Fisichella, 231 Formula 1 races he might have had, but that was a definite mistake there over in turn three, and Joey Hand was able to take full advantage of it and move through now into third place in GT, and he's going to set his sights on Tony Vielander, who's ahead of him, and it's Bill Auberlin in the other BMW that is running now at the front of the field. So that 56 car had the problem early on, but it's got itself right back into contention. It got its lap back during that second caution period of the day, and now is right back into contention.
Yeah, two problems, of course. It's been hit a couple of times. Yeah. One caused a puncture, one just sent it slightly further back down the field. But the 56 car, what a comeback this has been. And Joey Hand is pedalling for all he's worth at the moment. With Fisichella just dropping down to 4th position. Bill Aublin leading the class in the 55 car. Haven't seen him for a while because he is quite a way up the road. And
a couple of seconds or more ahead of Tony Wielander in the Racing Competizione 062 Ferrari.
Which is just going through the bottom of our screen there, turning into turn 17. So the top 4 are still, or in GT, are all still on the Ullman straight, the back straight here. At the same time, the CRS car's gone around in 17 and is just missed by Joey Hand as he goes through there. The CRS car's had its problems early on in this race. The 62 of Pierre Arret, Sean Lynn and Roger Willis, the Kiwi, and managed somehow to avoid being picked up. Well, actually, that was pure luck because he didn't hit the inside wall, but it clearly had been very sideways, if not completely rotated. And again, fabulous heads-up driving by the slew of cars that were coming through behind him. Tommy Milner in the 03 GM Chevy Corvette. I see there's a name that I still associate with BMW. You know, Joey Hand and Tommy Milner running together, you think, that'll be the 2 BMWs. But Tommy moved over in the closed season to GM Chevy Corvette. And the 03 Corvette in 4th position ahead of Fisichella.
Yeah, so Fisichella's
having, I think he's in tyre trouble.
Yeah, he certainly lost a couple of places in the last half a lap or so. And Tommy Milner, yeah, you're right, he's used to dicing with Joey Hand.
He's gone back ahead of Milner as they've crossed the line there. So that's a bit of a dice going on the timing and scoring screen, at least, as we're on board the 50 Chevy. James Chevy, 03 Chevy Corvette, excuse me. Battling for that position with Tommy Milner. That must be Fisichella just up the road, is it? Or is he far and gone? No, he's gone. So where? There we are. That is the... Oh my goodness me, here comes Christensen.
That cost him a fair bit of time, didn't it?
Is it? It's the one car.
No, it was the one car, you're right.
Yeah. Oh, did you see the stare and the shake of their heads?
Unimpressed.
Unimpressed. Yeah, I'm not sure that it makes that much difference to the driver of the GT car, but that was a big, hard Paddington stare and a shake of the head there with that very sort of stormtrooper-like helmet. Couldn't see his eyes, but you knew what they were saying, Jeremy. Yes. Stefan Sarazin leads 2 hours 40 minutes into the 12 hours of Sebring on lap number 70. Coming on to 71, yes, absolutely. Tom Christensen behind Stefan Sarazin by just about a half a second, as once again the recovering number 1 Audi gets stuck in the GT traffic.
Yeah, no, and Sarazin, he's pulled out a lead now, I think, of a little way over the second place car of Tom Christensen. Look, Duval in the Team Orica Matmut car, the 2010 spec Peugeot with the restricted engine, running in 3rd place, about 13 seconds behind the 2 race leaders. And in 4th place, Anthony Davidson hasn't made really any progress at all.
Not at all.
Since making that pit stop during that last round, the last caution period.
He's lapping quite consistently, but it's about half a second to 3/4 of a second off the pace. Now, knowing Anthony as I do, that is not because he's slow. So is there something tactical going on here? Are they running that to a different strategy? Are they trying to stretch the tyre wear? Have they said to Ant, right, you must make these tyres last 2 stints and we need to get maybe an extra lap or an extra couple of laps out of the fuel from you, and therefore he's driving to a different tune, if you like, than Sarazin is at the head of the field?
Well, if that's the case, then to tell Anthony to slow down really isn't a sort of phrase that is in Anthony's dictionary, is it? So, no. But I am surprised he hasn't made more progress. I expected him to begin to close in on the leading cars, and that he has not done. Here's our leader in LMP2 now.
With the race leader right behind him.
Yeah, the new Honda Turbo engine, or HPD Turbo 2.8 litre Turbo V6, isn't it, in that Lola, the open top Lola of Level 5 Motorsports, and they've had some problems with that car this week, aside from the fact that Luis crashed it on Monday during the test session. first time that car had actually run, so that wasn't a terribly good start. But they've come back, they've been struggling with the car, but made steady progress, and it's certainly running a lot better today than it has done previously this week.
It did like the dark, though, didn't it? Both of the level 5 cars went better in the cool of the darkness practice on Thursday evening. Leading that category from in second, Lucas Ordonez in the 26, isn't it? The Nissan, Signatech Nissan.
Yep.
And next time we get a look at him, we can give you a little bit of his background, because those of you sitting at home, maybe watching on your PS3 or maybe an Xbox, there's something to be learned from that boy. We'll give you the full skinny on that in a little while. Impressed with Luis Diaz, Jeremy, because he could have been out of a drive last year, and he was good enough to realise that he needed to be out there racing. Went to a GDC car and then to a PC team, and just to keep himself in there, keep his name in the frame, and it's really paid off for him with Scott Tucker and David Stone and Level 5 Motorsport. They've seen the opportunity to give a good driver a ride, as we've got the 016 Dyson in the pit lane from 8th position. Jay Cochran bringing that car in along pit lane, and that looks relatively routine at the moment, just cleaning out the rubbish from the debris from, they were just topping up some fluid at the back there, Jeremy.
Yes, they were. So there's some work going on at the back of the car.
Jamie Howe?
The team brought the car to a stop. They did do some fuel. Then, as you said, they did put some fluid back in the car. They're just checking over the systems in the back of the car, making sure that their radiator vents and everything unclogged. Team getting the door shut back right now, doing a new drink bottle for the driver, and the car is going to get back out and underway.
Out it goes. Now, wherever you're watching or listening to us around the world via the internet, we're just around about 12 minutes past the hour, and for the rest of the race, that will be our regular spot, well, depending on what's going on the track, of course, for race highlights. So let's do one. Start of the race, Peugeot versus Audi. Mike Rockenfeller having a little go, but McNish deciding it was his turn to take up the four-ringed cudgel and try and beat the Peugeot boys around the head with it. Up into second position. McNish really wanting to get in and disrupt the Peugeot's early plans. It worked for a short while, but eventually Alex Wirtz, another Monegasque resident, down the inside into turn one and took the place away from Alan. And then the Peugeots began to pull away just a little bit. In GT, Ollie Gavin got a great start, got 2-3 seconds up the road, but by lap number 8, it was Jimmy Brady, the pole sitter, who got past, kind of, through turn number 1, and they were still duking it out at turn 3. A bit of yellow paint to rub off. GT runners in for BMW, not such a great start to the race. The 56 car with a right front puncture caused by contact. Not the first time that car would see contact in the early running. That brought out our first full course caution, and on the resumption, Alan McNish thought he had a shot at the lead Peugeot, and oh, bang! I think that's called closing the door on the guy behind you. Remember that BMW? Said it was the first time not the first time you would see contact, and there the Jaguar got called for that, for avoidable contact. BMW escaping major damage there. And then a very odd situation for Mike Rockenfeller. Not one, but 2 left rear punches that saw the car briefly behind the wall. The team not really sure what had caused that, but they've sent him out anyway. And then the big headline of the day. Battling at the head of the GT field. Pat Long and Jan Magnussen and Johannes van Overbeek taking the big hit on the wall at the exit of turn number 16. And a fantastic piece of avoidance by the second GM Chevy Corvette. So that's left us with 2 hours and 46 minutes completed. And don't forget, you can win a Corvette and take off to France in it. Enter for a chance to win a new 2012 Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport convertible, plus a trip for 2 to the 2012 24 Hours of Le Mans. Go to www.americanlemans.com for entry info. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Stefan Sarazan leads from Tom Christensen in the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
There was a town held captive by an evil gas pump. It fed on people's hard-earned money, But along came the Michelin Man, who reminded them the right tire changes everything. And with fuel-efficient tires in place, that evil gas pump wasn't so evil anymore. Michelin Energy Saver AS tires can help save up to 109 gallons of fuel. Michelin, a better way forward.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
And just on lap number 74, we've got the leader in the pit lane, Stefan Sarrazin and Anthony Davidson. Both the Peugeot 908s are in the pit lane. That's Sarrazin's car leaving. Did they change tyres? Did they change drivers? That's questions for our pit lane crew, and we'll drop in with them to get the information from that in a moment. But that should mean that Tom Christensen's gone through and retaken the lead of the race from Audi. Remember, we were telling you earlier on here from Sebring that Christensen was in a pretty decent position because the Peugeots around him all needed to make a stop. They didn't take the opportunity under the last full course caution to make a pit stop. They've had to come in under green, and Jeremy Shaw, first blood of the tactical competition perhaps there to Audi.
Perhaps so, but you know, it's still an awful long way to go, so we can't really yet draw any conclusions, proper conclusions from what has occurred, but there is no doubt that the Peugeot can go a little bit longer apparently between pit stops than can the Audi.
New leader in LMP2 as well, Lucas Ordonez leads Sebring 12 hours in the Nissan power.
Yeah, the other
car.
interesting thing about the leaders though is that the number 10 car and the number 7 car, that's the 2010 Peugeot and the 2011 Peugeot, those came on the same lap. They'd stopped at the same time earlier on, and now they're coming again on the same lap, whereas the Audi didn't quite go as long last time around.
10th position in class, 30th overall for Mike Rockefeller as he brings the recovering Audi into pit lane. Now you might think, why is he still going? Well, here we've got a lot of time, over 9 hours still to go, and Rick is down there.
Indeed, they brought the car in. They're changing drivers as well, all 4 tires. And I should point out, this is different. Now, obviously, they're on a totally different strategy based on what's happened. But I should point out that the Peugeot, who came in just a moment ago, which was leading the race at the time, only pitted for fuel. They did not change tires. So they made a short stop, just got fuel, and went back out on their way. In this case, these guys obviously had a totally different strategy, taking both fuel and tires as well. So they are going to go ahead and send him back out shortly. Meanwhile, you've got Tom Christensen, his teammate, who is out on the track, currently the race leader. So they've got different strategies. Obviously, these guys have had a bad day, but you never know at Sebring. It might come back to them.
Yeah, the other thing, Rick, thank you very much, is that they're heading for points for the season. The ALMS is a 7-round championship. It includes Le Mans, it includes Petit Le Mans. We'll be going to Spa, to Silverstone, out to the Far East. And, you know, ultimately, at the end of the season, the points that are gained here at Sebring will count for something for the struggling number 1 Audi at the moment. The other thing is, of course, you might as well change. If you're going to change drivers, you're going to change tyres, so that will be the difference. Timo Bernhard got in that car. We've seen him do very well here at Sebring, particularly for Porsche in the past with the P2 car, winning, of course, a few years ago in the hands of Roger Penske. So Christensen leads now by over half a minute to Anthony Davidson in second place. In P2, it is Lucas Ordonez who leads for Signatech Nissan in the Orica chassis car, ahead of Scott Tucker in the 33 Lola Honda in second position.
Yeah, and the 055 car, which was driven by Luis Diaz, that has made a pit stop and handed over to Ryan Hunter-Reay as we see the Muscle Milk 06 Lola Aston Martin onto pit lane.
From 7th position in class and overall, this is Klaus Graf, who seems to have had a pretty uneventful stint out there after the hot starting problems that car had earlier on. And Kelly is wandering up to that car. I could see you from the shot there, Kelly.
Yes, the Aston Martin Muscle Milk machine pulling in with Klaus Graf. So far, everything looking routine as they're still just fueling, and we'll just be keeping our eyes on that problem that you mentioned they had earlier. They had trouble getting it to start as the engine was hot. So we'll just wait and watch and see if everything goes. It doesn't look like they're going to take tires. We talked about the fact that they want to double stint them, but they are doing something on the inside. They were cleaning off the glass. I'm not sure what they're working on inside the cockpit right now. But obviously something wasn't right in there for glass. We'll see if we can get word from the team on what the problem is they're fixing there. Perhaps it was some wiring or something done.
Yeah, it's very interesting because the crew member on the left-hand side, closest to our camera, it looked like he was looking at a wiring diagram or putting something over the top. Maybe there's a problem with vision.
And once again, it's not starting, so you see they've got, their little portable battery pack perhaps to get the engine fired back up. So the same problem they had before. Really a big shame for this new Aston Martin. That's going to be something they'll definitely be looking at to fix for the future. But if this continues to occur, it's going to be a real holdup for this Muscle Milk team. And
they are not allowed to have that car start from a battery. They'll have to restart it under its own power. Tom Christensen's in the pit lane from the race lead.
That's right, Tom Christensen has brought the car in. You can see they're putting fuel in. They have tires ready. There was some debate as to whether they were going to put tires on the car. And when he came in, they were saying fuel only. He throws the bottle off, hits one of his crewmen. It'll be interesting to see what they're going to do here. Remember, the Peugeot that came in only took fuel and then went right back out. And that's exactly the same strategy they're going to play with Tom Christensen. They don't want to lose any time in the pits. As a result, both of those cars who were in the lead a moment ago only took fuel.
Yeah, stretching the life of the Michelin tyres even in these extremely hot conditions as Tom Christensen rejoins. Anthony Davison has gone through to assume the lead of the race. And the older car just not getting, because of the smaller fuel tank, Jeremy. Audi played the tactics perfectly there. They took the pit stop when they needed to, but they haven't got the advantage that they should have because they've got less fuel on board.
Yeah, plus, of course, the timing of that last caution period didn't help them either, but still, the crux of the matter is that they are having to stop more frequently than is the Peugeot. So that is not going to play in their favour as the race unfolds. As it stands right now, Tom's still going to be in reasonably good shape, but he's going to have to do a bit of catching up again, I think, now. Have to see where they regain positions on the track once they're fully back up to speed.
Well, Christensen carving his way through traffic. He fully back to fitness now after a couple of really bizarre injuries. He ruptured his Achilles tendon at the start of last year playing badminton with his son, and before that he'd had a very nasty incident in the DTM a couple of years ago, the German Touring Car Championship, which left him out of racing for a little while, but he's back to his best now. And my goodness me, Capello, Christensen and McNish, that's a team that you would take anywhere, isn't it? and put up against anybody as far as world sports car driving. I mean, just the number of Le Mans wins between them, that they've got something like 13. They've all been winners here. In fact, Dindo is on 4 wins, and obviously Tom Christensen is the most successful driver here at Sebring with 5, keeping them together. So Tom could get to 6 and Dindo to 5 if they were to win this one this weekend. But plenty of racing to go as we come up just 5 minutes away from 3 hours into the race. The first quarter or so of the race almost done, and we are beginning to settle down into a pattern. But that doesn't mean, Jeremy, that any of the classes are getting any less exciting.
That's true, and in the LMP Challenge we've got a new leader there. We saw the WRO car of Johnny Mollum leading through the first early stage of the race. That has made a pit stop fairly recently, but I believe has had to serve a penalty for improper
pit procedure.
So that's dropped out right out of contention. The new leader in LMP Challenge is Elton Julian in car 063, one of the 2 Genoa Racing cars, and that has moved out into the front in LMP Challenge.
In GT Challenge, there's your leader, the 077. That's the Magnus Racing. Excuse me, that's the 3rd place car. That's the Magnus Racing car. It was leading earlier on. Just a little bit further up the road, Sebastian Blekemolen and Spencer Pumpelly are the ones. No,
that's 4th and 5th right behind.
Yep.
So actually, John Potter's made some very good progress this last sort of half an hour or so. He's pulled himself ahead there. He's passed both of these two cars within the last few laps. This is the battle now for 4th and 5th. That's Enrique Cisneros in that NGT car, the sort of orange and black car. Right behind him is the battery tender car, the Alex Job racing machine.
That was the pole setter.
Yeah, driven by Bill Sweedler.
Bill Sweedler's still in there.
The car all the time.
Lee Keane started the car.
Oh, that's true.
The driver who set the pole. You don't have to start the car with the pole setting driver or the qualifying setting driver. It's a choice. But it was Lee that did, I think, just a stint. Bill Sweedler's been in there ever since. Again, clearly a crowbar required, or a very strong crane to get him out, drag him out of this. No, I'm having quite enough fun, thank you very much indeed. And actually, hey, you know, he's doing all right at the moment because he's right there in the top 5. So, you know, while he's there and he's scoring good points again, remember these guys have got the whole of the rest of the American Le Mans series.
Yeah, you know that car's going to be content. Alex Job Racing, you know, they've won everything there is to win in any kind of sports car racing. They've got 7 Sebring wins to their name. They've got 39 wins in all to their credit, and they're looking to repeat the success that they managed here 1 year ago. Lee Keane put that car on a pole, sharing with Roberto Gonzalez and with Butch Leitzinger. They qualified on the pole, they won the race, and Lee Keane got fastest lap as well. So
that's a pretty decent game, that, isn't it? You can't really do. You know, if you come in and the team manager says, "I think you could have done better after that," I think you've got reasonable cause to tell them to disappear. Yeah, full house.
It's a good look at the NGT car there, just turning into turn 17. That's the car that was crashed heavily yesterday morning, missed out on qualifying. It was Enrique Cisneros that made that mistake. He's driving right now and turning some pretty competitive laps too.
Now there is the LMP C class.
It's the second of the General Racing cars. The other one is almost exclusively red, but this is the car of Elton Julian. You can see all sorts of different colours on his helmet. He was actually born in Ecuador, but he's an American, and he's raced in Europe as well. He raced in Formula 3 quite a long time ago now. Was a very, very highly rated youngster in Formula 3. Unfortunately, budgetary constraints kept him out of the cockpit for a long, long time.
Yeah, ran out of money long before he ran out of talent.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And it's great to see now the last couple of years that Elton Julian's had a few opportunities to drive in sports car racing. Absolutely loves it. And he's going to drive for 7 or 8 races this year with the General Racing team, but also some races in Europe with them as well.
Yeah, and the grading system of platinum, gold, silver and bronze as far as drivers are concerned for the ALMS and for Le Mans and for the challenge and amateur classes in the ACO rules, throw 1 or 2 anomalies, because obviously Elton normally wouldn't qualify to be allowed to drive in this, but because he'd been out of racing for so long, it is a clause in the rule book that says that works, and they've made this pay because he's clearly lost none of his hunger for racing or indeed any of his talent. Well, it hasn't been a picture-perfect day for everybody out there on the circuits, and one of the men who had early problems is Mike Rockenfeller of Audi.
Yeah, very frustrated Mike Rockenfeller standing by in the pits right now. Finally out of the car. Let's talk about the problems you had earlier today. You said it was all a result of tire punctures.
Yeah, I mean, I was always really careful, you know, in traffic. I was behind Alan, just following, and, you know, we knew we had to stay out of trouble. Out of 7, I went offline to overtake the Corvette, like a normal line, you know, when you overtake. And I must have collected a carbon piece on the track from some other cars. And then I had a puncture. I came in. The rear bodywork was destroyed due to that puncture. We tried to fix it. We fixed the rear wing and engine cover. And I went out again, and immediately the next lap I had the puncture on the same rear left, which was then caused by a part which was destroyed from the first puncture. So really unlucky, and yeah, then we went back in the tent, repaired everything, put a new tire on, and yeah, now the car was running okay again. But we are 6 laps down, so it's really frustrating, but it's still a long race.
All right, Mike Rockenfeller, not happy with the way things have gone today.
Well, frustrated, barely even describes how he must feel. We've got the AF Corsa Ferrari just having a little bit of a problem getting the wheel nuts on, and also Simon Pagenaud from 4th position. Looks like he's only getting fuel to the defending champion team, the Highcroft Racing Acura. This is last year's P2 monocoque chassis with a completely redesigned bodywork and aero kit by Worth Industries. Nick Worth doing a smashing job on that car. They got the high downforce nose only early on this week. The fuel going in, the fuel going in, the fuel going in, and when that fuel hose is pulled, it'll be fire up and go, and Pagenaud hits the starter button, and the new 2.8 V6 twin turbocharged engine, street car derived, road car derived, that engine shown at Le Mans last year by Eric Berkman and the HPD team, and off he goes into the fray. Straight back on it. Pagenaud, what a talent he is. It's still only, what, 22 or something like that. He's been around for so long, you tend to think he's been around there forever. Anthony Davison, leader of the race, comes into the pits.
Yep. This is going to be an interesting pit stop now. Is he going to change tyres in that number 7 car? As the new race leader is Stefan Sarazan. He goes past the pits, and there are tyres being laid out for car number 7.
Now, it's interesting to point out that the 7 car and the 8 car are now running different strategies, but it's not a strategy they planned. Earlier, when they were making pit stops, there was a confusion as to whether the pits were open. As a result, the 7 car came in, the 8 car did not. Now, what they're trying to do is make lemons out of lemons, lemonade out of lemons, as the case may be, by going to a different strategy in the hope that, well, now they have 2 cars running different strategies. You see, they only took fuel, didn't put tires on, and the hope now is that if it goes one way or the other, they can take advantage of it, and Peugeot may be able to pull this off.
That's very interesting now, because that was not a driver change, so the option is there. You could take tyres or not take tyres. Clearly, Anthony's pace. Remember, he started off quite conservatively, Jeremy, and brought those tyres in. And one of the things he was telling us when we interviewed him for the preview programme for the ILMC was that the big difference that they're finding with the new tyres and with the new regulations is they are very, very susceptible to how you run your first laps on them. If you overcook them earlier on, you're in big trouble towards the end of the stint. And he clearly has remembered that fact, and he's back out there without changing his Michelin tyres.
Yeah, so very interesting there. You saw the engineers having a good close look at the tyres during that pit stop. They elected to keep them on the car, and obviously Anthony said, look, from the driving standpoint, no problem there. The car is driving nice and consistently, so off they're setting again on that same set of Michelin rubber, and Anthony now will settle down into a rhythm again. There'll be some way back, as we saw, he was just pulling to a halt as Stefan Sarazan went past to retake the lead.
2 wheels off the circuit there from Davidson. We know how aggressive he is. We saw him at Le Mans, all 4 wheels off the circuit in one part, and we know that when he's off the leash, when Olivier Canel, the team manager, takes him off the leash, he basically says, right Anthony, go and do it, and he'll beat that car with a stick to get it round the corners. He's dropped down into 3rd position at the moment, obviously, as Christensen and Sarazan have gone through. Sarazan leads for Peugeot, the number 8 car from Tom Christensen in 2nd. Loic Duval just crossing the line there in the new colour scheme for the Orica Matmuts last year's Peugeot. Remember, this is one of the grandfather cars, no fin, big engine, small restrictor.
Yeah, so Anthony Davison will slot into 4th place, and he's quite a long way behind, and he's lost it's 49 seconds now behind the race leader, so he's lost about 10 seconds over the course of the last 20 minutes or so, because they both made a pit stop during that period.
That's right.
And the gap has gone from just under half a minute to almost 50 seconds.
P2 leader in the pit lane. Lucas Ordonez is getting out of the car, I think. I'm not sure that's Lucas's helmet. Lucas is a fabulous story. We alluded to it earlier on. If you're sitting at home at the moment watching ESPN3.com on your PlayStation 3 or your Xbox Live, that looks like there's a problem there. Well, that's what Lucas was doing just 2 years ago. He entered a competition called the Nissan GT Academy in Europe. 25,000 people entered the first year, 1.3 million the second. And Lucas's prize for driving quickly in virtual reality was to be selected to go and drive cars for real. And in a selection process at Silverstone, which at times when I was there was very wet and windy. He shone through, won the prize drive, which was a 24-hour race at Dubai in a Nissan 370Z. He impressed so much that Nissan decided to invest in him in the Spanish GT Championship, and subsequently, now that they have an engine in the back of a prototype 2 car, Lucas has been selected to run with the Signatech team throughout the whole season, including going to Le Mans. And there's a nice little postscript to that, is that the first American run of the GT Academy has just started, and the top applicants will be there at Le Mans watching Lucas racing. Back down to the GT category and the BMW.
Joey Hand brings the car in. Interesting the way the day went. Early in the day, they had that tire problem. A tire went down as a result of a little bit of contact. At the time, Bobby Rahal was saying to the team, relax, it'll come back to us. Go out and have some fun racing. They've done that. Now they're in second place. Not bad behind their own teammate, the 55 car.
Sage words indeed from Mr. Rahal. He's been around the block and around the tracks a few times. Still racing, of course, in historic racing. Bobby's brought back one of his lovely old Lolas and is a regular on the European and international historic racing scene rather. And he's really done a cracking job with this BMW M3 since it came back into top class sports car racing, what, a couple of seasons ago now. It was a difficult berth for the team, but the car has been developed and has got quicker and quicker. And now with Schnitzer BMW, Charlie Lamb also racing the cars in Europe, the pace of development gets even quicker. Pit stop for the 017 Falcon Porsche team, now run by Derek Walker. That looks pretty routine. And Martin Ragginger was in that car when it came in 5th position in GT. Martin, a massive Nürburgring 24 specialist, Porsche factory driver. The car's down. A round of applause from the man at the head of the crew member at the head of the pit stop, just acknowledging the good work. That was a very neat stop indeed, as the second of the BMWs trundles down the pit lane to its pit stall. This is the 55 car.
Bill Oberlin brings the car in. Unlike their sister car, they are going to go a driver change. Farfus getting in the car. Meanwhile, they've got the fuel going in. This is the car that's been leading, and you saw it had a great battle at one point with the Ferrari to get this lead, but they've done what they've needed to do. As we pointed out earlier in the day, they were concerned about their fuel strategy, whether they were going to be able to get enough, but at this point it appears that for the time being, depending on how things go at the end of the day, that they're in the right place at the right time. Fuel still going in, that E10 fuel going in. Now that they've got the fuel in, they can go and start working on the tires. Obviously no adjustments here. They're simply going to a situation where they're changing all 4 tires. Oberlin's out, Farfus in, and now they're going to be ready to go back out and continue to do battle. And hopefully the work they put in, a full 12-hour test before they ever got here, will pay off.
Another great pit stop by the BMW crew. The Ferrari coming out behind as well, Jeremy.
Yeah, that's right. So good pit stops by both of those guys. Here comes the 06 again, the Aston Martin. That's
absolutely. It's a penalty stop.
It's quite a long time. It was lost in the pits on lap 75, so it's gone almost 10 laps since his last pit stop.
Oh dear me, this is the WRO LMP Challenge car, and that, I've got to tell you, there's damage on the right-hand side of the rear of that car, and there's something fundamental missing for that car. It should have 4, but it only has 3, and Luca Moro, interesting character, is 3-wheeling it back. It's the front right that's gone missing, but the right rear wing end plate is a little crooked.
Yeah, and it's all gone wrong for that team. They were super in the early stages. A remarkable job that Johnny Molan did. There weren't many other professional drivers at the wheel perhaps in the first stint of LMP Challenge, but still Johnny did a super job, and now it's all gone wrong.
So Luke, well, already the wing end plate is skew whiff, so there's already been something there. Oh, and that's got no wheel nut. Look, his hand's off the wheel there because he knows exactly what's going to happen. And it's never a good day when part of the car does a different lap time than the rest of it. It's actually doing quite a good job to get that car back. But what I'd like to know is how it managed to get the rather wobbly rear right-hand end plate. It looks like one of the fixing points has actually come away there, the forward fixing point of that, Jeremy, because there's a a hole, and I can see daylight through what should really be fastened on to the top of the wing end plate.
Yeah, it's not a fine time to leave me this wheel, is it?
Very good.
Fortunate for that team, because they worked so hard this week, and to have that sort of a problem with still so much long way to go is really unfortunate.
Well, let's watch as he goes down the back. He's done a good job of staying out of the way, and in fairness, he's done very little other damage to the car. He'll be scraping along the right front corner. But these cars, proof there that even the prototype challenge cars, very, very stiffly sprung, because on the bumps here, it's not as if the car's just grinding into the ground and grinding to a halt. It has managed to hold up. He's got to do a right turn here, and in some ways he's a little lucky because he has the left front wheel to lean on, so he will be able to get the right turn into the pit lane, and they'll be able to go to work without too much problem on that car. Meantime, let's head back down to BMW, where Bill Oberlin has just gotten out of his BMW M3.
And I should say a very happy Bill Oberlin. Unlike some guys we've talked with, you had a great battle going with the Ferrari for a while there, then you kind of just pulled away. What happened?
Isn't it funny? It's a hot day. It's a tough day, and I pushed him, and it looked like his tires went off, and ours hung in there strong. And, I mean, we got a new Dunlop. Dunlop always continues to develop. Our new aerodynamic platform is probably pushing more downforce on the car through 17 and 1 and 16 and 15, and I seem to have an advantage on him. I had an advantage coming onto all the straightaways, so we can come on them on the straights, and you leave it to these guys. These guys get you in the front. They're doing great strategy. The Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan group. BMW, I always say you want to get to victory lane. Follow that little rondelle. It takes you there.
Now let's talk about the Ferrari versus the BMW. When you guys are equal, are you equal and up to the task of taking on the Ferrari if you end up in that point at the end of the race where it's a sprint?
Yeah, you got to remember, I mean, myself not included, there's 5 other guys in these cars that are unreal. This driver lineup is so strong, and the cars, I think, the cars can go head to head, and then it comes down to the guy behind the wheel and how bad he wants it, and I think we want it pretty bad.
All right, Bill Oberlin, it's nice to talk to a guy who's happy out of his situation. So far, the BMW doing well, and Bill's a happy guy.
Augusto Farfus in that car. And there is the 56 team car. Just going through to click off another lap, and Bill talking about the tyres there, and, round and black and one on each corner is just no way to describe tyres anymore. It's how some drivers might think about it, and certainly even when you're picking tyres for your road car, you might not really think about the differences. But thank goodness, Jeremy, that the American Le Mans Series and sports car racing, AC Oriel sports car racing, still has tyre competition. It's one of the few international motorsports that does that. Motorcycle racing, even rallying, Formula One now, IndyCar racing, NASCAR, they all have a spec tyre. Here we've got big companies like Dunlop, Michelin, Falcon, Yokohama, all battling it out to find some kind of benefit. Yes, it costs them money, but the people who benefit in the end are us, for our straight tyres.
Yeah, and as long as you can buy the tyres, as long as they're available to buy for other people to buy them, then I think it's fantastic. To have 4 manufacturers here is great. Here, though, a pit stop for the 04 Corvette. Jan Magnussen, they had that problem earlier on, and Rick de Bruyne is there.
That's right, the cars come in, they're going in, continuing to do the fuel, and once again, they cannot work on the car in the meantime. It's interesting, those early pit stops we had today, the place was packed. They had so little distance that they had before they could come in. Now, with the pit lane open, it's much, much easier. They've got an easy in, they've got an easy out, fuel all the way in. Now they go to work on the tires, changing the front tires very quickly. These guys move from side to side, from front to back, I should say, instead of from side to side. So they go from the fronts to the backs, put the new tires on, and they're going to finish back out.
What a stop. Poetry in motion, that was. Richard Westbrook, the Englishman. Good to see him in a very competitive drive. That's 2 laps behind that car after the incident between Pat Long and Jan Magnussen. And you know what? In the big scheme of things, that's not as bad as it could be. And in fact, there is the flying lizard that came into contact with that car. Out has got Pat Long. And he is busily
strapping in Mark Lieb.
Yeah, another Porsche factory driver. You'll see, by the way, on the back of that car on the inside, text Red Cross to 90999. If you've got a cell phone that has a US carrier, if you SMS the word Red Cross to 90999, you'll make a $10 donation. to the disaster fund for Japan, so SMS or text if you prefer, but only if you have a US cellular provider. 90999 with the word Red Cross. If you're an international viewer and listener and you'd like to donate, go to the Highcroft site, and there's plenty of ways there, the Highcroft Racing site, plenty of ways there that you can get involved. Ferrari in the penalty box, AF Corsa, too many men over the wall for the pole sitting team, and that is really going to hurt them. Really going to hurt them. They've been dropping back already, and Pierre Caffer will be so fired up because this is not his penalty and that he's having to soak up. He had nothing to do with this.
That's probably a 20-second penalty. They were in 5th place, but that was very, very costly for the AF Corsa team. And we saw them running so strongly in the early stages, but right at the beginning of the race, but they dropped back in the first round of pit stops, and they dropped back farther that as well.
And another Ferrari's going to be in that penalty box as well, the luxury racing Ferrari 458 Italia. Another team that's new to the American Le Mans Series. They'll be in for a stop at 20-second penalty in a few moments' time, and that'll knock them down a couple of positions as well. This is fundamental stuff, albeit these guys new to the American Le Mans Series. But I'll tell you now, the officials in the pit lane are really fair. They will have warned them about that on another occasion. So we are 3 hours and 18 minutes into this. Stefan Sarrazin leads from Tom Christensen in the Mobil Wall 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
There was a town held captive by an evil gas pump. It fed on people's hard-earned money. But along came the Michelin Man, who reminded them the right tire changes everything. And with fuel-efficient tires in place, that evil gas pump wasn't so evil anymore. Michelin Energy Saver AS tires can help save up to 109 gallons of fuel. Michelin, a better way forward.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil. Only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
It's a packed crowd on hand here at the Sebring International Raceway in Central Florida for the 59th running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Hello there, if you're just joining us. Well, first of all, where have you been? And do you have a note for being late? The crowd is huge here. We've seen some great action already in the first 3 hours and 20 minutes. Jeremy Shaw alongside myself, John Hindhaugh, here on ESPN3.com as we're proud to usher in a new digital era of broadcasting for the American Le Mans Series and the ALMS. There's Stefan Sarrazin, who's leading by getting on for half a minute now. 27 seconds last time around, Jeremy. Tom Christensen and Sarrazin ripping off regularly similar times, to be honest.
Oh, yes.
The traffic notwithstanding, they've been able to get through there. Loic Duval in third place for the Matmut Orica, the old car. There's Christensen in second place, round about the same. Anthony Davis in the 7 Peugeot, not quite there, sort of sitting around the 53s, maybe half a second or so off the pace of the 4 cars ahead of him.
Well, we've got 5 cars on the lead lap.
It's the Intersport prototype challenge car, as the luxury racing Ferrari is in the pit lane and in the box, in fact, for its 20 seconds of penalty. And it's just disappeared, having had too many men over the wall. That's another car that's dead stick. The 89 Intersport. Oh, no, fired up at the game. The K-Tech Chevy engine with... Oh, no. See, I don't mind seeing that from the engine. That's overheating. He's got some kind of fluid coming out the back of the vent.
We had an engine blew up yesterday in the 018 car, the Performance Tech Motorsports car. That had a problem yesterday with a blown engine. I hope that's not the same for here, but it certainly doesn't look particularly good.
Oh, right in front of the Rebellion car as the Jerome Blakemolen Rebellion Toyota comes in for a regular pit stop. has to evade him. Good to see Jerome, often thought of as a Porsche specialist, in a prototype as he comes in from 7th position. That's a good run for that. Got to give a word, actually. Got to give a word to the Rebellion team, formerly the Speedy Seba team. Bart Hayden is here, of course, and the real leader of that team, Hugh Hayden, fantastic character around sports car racing all over the continent of Europe and indeed worldwide. Died very suddenly at the back end of last year, and it's a credit to the team and to his son Bart that they're out here and competing with their new partnership with Toyota as well. Endurance for the drivers, endurance for the team as well. You've got to take the rest when you get it, Jeremy.
That's right. That's the Rahal Letterman Lanigan team there. A whole bunch of guys. They've been around the sport for a long time, all of those guys there. And yes, they're going to take any opportunity they can to take a bit of a breather. It's hot out here today. It's been hot all week long, so it's physically pretty much draining, not only for the guys driving the cars, but those working behind the wall as well. It's back to what we were talking about. We're on board here with Simon Pagenaud at the wheel of the 01 car, the Highcroft Racing Acura. They're running still on the lead lap, around about the tail end lead lap, probably about a second or so per lap off of the pace of the turbo diesels in front, but still running very, very respectably indeed 3 hours or so into the race. And the gap between first and second, it pretty much stabilized just a little bit under half a minute, and the gap from second to third, Christensen to Loic Duval in the 2010 Peugeot of the Team Orica Matmado, again about 17 seconds. And the gap between Duval and Davidson has come down a little bit now, but very little bit. I mean, Anthony Davidson hasn't been able to turn the same sort of pace as he was earlier in the race.
Yeah, on board with the Highcroft ARX HPD, one of a number of teams who are supporting the efforts to raise money for the Japan earthquake and tsunami disaster. Nissan with Signatech doing the same with Support Japan. And for those of you who can't do text messaging or SMS messaging to donate outside the United States, www.irc.org.jp. That's the International Red Cross appeal. Or you could go to highcroftracing.com/help-Japan. A couple of ways that you can get involved there. Obviously, we've got 4 Japanese engine manufacturers here, with Mazda, who've been here for a while, with Honda, with the HPD, with Toyota and Nissan joining in as well. So there's quite a lot of thoughts and support being sent back to the other side of the world after what can only be described as horrific pictures that we've seen over the last 10 days or 2 weeks coming out of Japan, and a lot of the motor industry, of course, based over there as well. So we all have links to it, tyre companies as well. www.irc.org.jp. And while we're on matters Nissan, gearbox issue for that Signatech Orica has put that car in the pit lane for a little while. Hopefully it will get back going again, because that car has been going very well. And just wrapping up 1 or 2 other bits and pieces, we saw the 038, the 038 doing well, with Johnny Morlam, I thought, doing a cracking job getting back into the car. Jeremy, we're settling down into a little, you were sort of talking about a little bit of the flow of the race at the front of the field, but in the other classes it's just as busy as well.
It is. It's Joey Hand who still leads GT. Ahead of his teammate now, so it's a BMW 1-2 in GT, about 8 seconds between those 2 cars. Mika Salo about 15 seconds further back in 3rd place in the Risi Competizione. Ferrari F458 Italia, and then in 4th place Antonio Garcia, now at the wheel of car number 03, the GM Chevy Corvette. And Wolf Hensler running along pretty happily there in 5th place now in GT. And Pierre Caffer, I think, is the only other car on the lead lap in GT.
Great to see such a variety of GT cars out there. We'll talk about it throughout the season here on ESPN3.com with the American Le Mans Series for the whole of its 9-round schedule. Long Beach, what a different venue, different type of atmosphere, different circuit that we go to in a few weeks' time. And again, full live coverage of qualifying and the race on ESPN3.com and AmericanLeMans.com. And it's one of my very favourite places to go. Earlier on, problems for Johannes van Overbeek. as he was an unwitting participant in a very, very big accident. It was Pat Long and Jan Magnussen who got together coming out of turn number 17. And unfortunately, the Extreme Speed Motorsport car was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. The good news is that Johannes is fine and he's made his way back to the pit lane. The better news is we get to talk to him, and Kelly Stavis is down there in the ESM pit with him now.
Johannes van Overbeek was behind the wheel of that Extreme Speed Ferrari that took the brunt of the hit when the GT cars got tangled up. First and foremost, Johannes, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you for asking.
You've had a chance to look over the car. What sort of damage have you seen? Obviously, it's out of the race at this point.
Yeah, it's a shame. I didn't want to be the first guy to wreck 458 in the world, but I did, and not a lot of spare parts around. I feel really badly for the crew guys and Patron, and they've been working so hard since they got these cars, and we were just a passenger.
Well, yeah, it looked like the bumpy track may have been the culprit. What happened out there?
The Porsche and the Corvette were getting pretty frisky with each other that entire lap. And coming into 17, Pat was on the inside and Jan was on the outside. And it looked like Jan was not giving Patrick a whole lot of room. Combined with Patrick hit a big bump and it shot the front of his car into the Corvette. They both spun. I started to go right, but then Patrick blocked that lane, and my only option was to go far to the outside, and I thought I had it cleared at the last minute. The Corvette rolled into our right rear, and his car took a big hit, but I'm fine.
We're glad to see you're okay, but the 001 is out of the race. Thank you.
Great aerial view there. There's the turn 1 in the middle of the picture, and again a big crowd on hand, just enjoying the perfect atmosphere here at Sebring. The 59th annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida. It's still Stefan Sauerzahn who leads by about 25 seconds now. So Tom Christensen in second place in the Audi has managed to, he's pulled about 4 or 5 seconds back over the course for the last 8 or 10 laps. So they're really running a pretty consistent pace, those two at the front of the field.
Yeah, this is the time in sports car racing that I really like. You've got to watch the timing and scoring screens as much as what's going out on the track, because although the cars aren't battling wheel to wheel, they are absolutely trading tenths of seconds between each other. There might be a quarter of a lap or a half a lap apart, but they're racing just as hard as if they were, in fact, wheel to wheel. Now, here's a problem for the Level 5 Coupe. This is the 055 car.
Coupe's 33.
Excuse me, that is the open top car. You're right, I'm sorry. I could see the top of the umbrella.
Yes,
I'm very sorry. Yes, I'm sorry to suggest that Lola's finest from Huntingdon as a coupe has a rag top, as the umbrella was being held over the top of that car there to keep the driver out of the sun. Hey, Martin Brain, if you're listening, maybe that's an idea.
That's so disappointing for those guys, because they were leading the race in P2 up until a little while ago. It's now the sister car, Scott Tucker at the wheel of car number 33, the Lola Coupe, as you suggested. That is now leading the class, and Ryan Hunter-Reay will rejoin. He's a couple of laps now, 3 laps I think, behind the sister car of Scott Tucker. And
at the moment, Scott Tucker looks to have made the right decision an hour before the first session earlier on this week, when he nominated the 33 car as his point scorer. LMPC, Elton Julian, spoken about him throughout this race. He came back to Top Line Motor Racing last year, paired up with Gunnar Jeanette, and did such a great job. And what's more, told everybody who wanted to listen, and quite a few people who didn't, frankly, that he was really enjoying himself. Big smile on his face all the time. And what's not to like when you're driving, what was only a few years ago, it comes from the Courage C65 chassis, and then became an Orica P1 chassis, and that's where all of these LMPC cars come from. There's Jens Pedersen, who's in second place. Been a great addition to the American Le Mans Series, and they've allowed teams, Level 5, perfect example. Dipped their toe in the water with these cars, now have gone and bought 3 Lolas to race in international competition.
There you go, we're watching the 4th place car in LMP Challenge at the moment. That is the newly delivered PR1 Matheson Motorsports car. It's Ken Dobson at the wheel right now. He's a basically a sedan racer, saloon car racer from California. He's taken over the wheel of that car, and he's running, he's what, 3 laps behind race who's had a problem earlier on in this race.
You might not know this, but is he any relation to Dominic Dobson, who used to race touring cars? In fact, was an American touring car champion, wasn't he? He was the only American touring car champion in the year that was Super Touring. When they had the Super Touring, he raced a Dodge Stratos, I think, the Super Touring.
Yeah, no, short answer.
Right.
Dominic from Washington, Ken from Northern California, and enjoying himself very much here in the GT cars.
Here's another guy who caught our eye last year, Jeremy, and you've known him for a little longer than that, but he impressed me. Frankie Montecalvo's been doing a good job as well in the PC category.
He was the youngest driver in the field last year. He's now turned 20 years of age, but yeah, he's a talent. He's signed up now with the Core Autosport team. That's Jonathan Bennett, who set up this organisation. Jonathan Bennett's a very interesting character. He set up his own business, Composite Resources, about 15 years ago.
Oh, I've just realised that's where the C-O-R-E comes from,
exactly
Composite Resources.
That's exactly
very
right.
clever.
And he's wanted to be... He started racing himself way back. In the 80s, he went to the Skip Barber School, and he knew he didn't have the resources to make it happen, so he's got to make it. He's got to make it on his own. So he's built up his own company, and now an opportunity to make it into the professional racing ranks. Set up his own team. Here is the race leader,
Stefan Sarazan in pit lane for the leading Peugeot. Tom Christensen has gone through and retaken the lead. Now, this is interesting, because
all right, I'm here.
They pretty much pitted together last time. Rick de Bruyne is down there.
Down here in the 8 pit. Remember, cars are running different strategies now in the Peugeot world. 7 car in a different strategy. They've brought the car in. Unlike last time, they're doing driver and tire change. These tires had 2 stints on them. Not enough to go 3. They're not quite that brave, but they're going ahead and changing the tires. Important to point out, these cars, this Peugeot, has the same diameter tire on the front and the rear. They have to be very cautious when they're pulling them off the wall to make sure they get the same tires. He's out and back on the track.
Yeah, the only difference between the tyres front to back, and that's a good point that Rick makes there, is that the tyres look exactly the same, but the wheels are slightly different offsets. So if you get it wrong, my goodness, you've got it very wrong. And we also mentioned the guys on doing the front tyres particularly. Look how tight it is around the wheel arch. Oh, and we've got the GMG Porsche with flames coming out the back of it. This is the 32 car, the 032 car, which has some problems there, and the driver's going to bail out very quickly indeed. They're not in the top 4 as we're going full course caution. Oh, what a shame for the GMG team, Mobil Motorsport Group from the West Coast. And that car, well, the fire fortunately seems to have gone out very quickly. When the driver bails out like that so quickly, you know that he knows that there's a problem, and now he's about to get back in or turn the ignition off. Yeah, he's just, I think, probably going to plug his radio back in. Let's have a look at the back of this car. There's a bit of damage at the front. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Well, I would have, oh no, that's the bottom end of the engine. You could see the oil gushing out, and you can see it even under the grass there, onto the grass. That's a heck of a job there to get off the racetrack and off the racing line. I wonder if you might have got just a little bit of notice that the engine was perhaps nipping up a little bit. Or
it's Jan Seyfarth, isn't it, I think, getting out of the car.
A bit of damage on
Porsche Junior driver.
A bit of damage on the front of the car, and the radiators around there. I wonder if he's already had a problem and maybe the engine's overheated and gone pop, but that is pure speculation on my part.
4th caution of the day, therefore, comes out on lap 99 for the race leader.
Oh yeah, there's the trail of very expensive racing oil.
Those guys have had no luck at all. So, excuse me, they've had no luck at all this week. They had a brake failure on, which day was it? Thursday, I guess it was, at turn 7, I think, going into the hairpin at turn 7, and completely out of control and cannoned into the Alex Job racing car. A big impact between those two, and the Alex Job team had to completely, well, they had to bring out a backup car.
Yeah, down from
and completely
Tavares,
build up a new car to come here back later on that night. A remarkable job they did to do that, and the GMG guys also terribly busy, but it's come to an early halt, and that's a super, really, it's been a good run for those guys in this race so far, but it's all obviously come to an early end.
Now, question here, who does this benefit? Tom Christensen was leading by half a minute over Anthony Davison, due a pit stop. We've just seen the 8 car come in. Pedro Lamy has gone out for Peugeot in the 8 car. Anthony Davison in the 7 in second. Loic Duval in third in the private Orica Matmut Peugeot. And they're all on the lead lap, so this is not really good news for Christensen. I suppose he's almost got to take the pit stop, hasn't he?
Yeah, no, he's due a pit stop in any time, in any case. You know, in any moment, in any case, he would have been into the pits within the next couple of laps, and you've got to hope that he's actually going to be able to stay out long enough now to get the field all packed up so the pits are open, so he doesn't have to come in while the pits are closed.
If he comes in while pits are closed, he can get 5 seconds of fuel to keep him out there, and he takes no further penalty other than losing his track position for that. On board with the HPD Highcroft car.
Yes, it's good news for these guys because they weren't that far away from going a lap down, so this is certainly going to help the Highcroft team to make sure they're able to keep on the lead lap.
And that is the sound of a 2.8 V6 engine.
No, it's 3.4 litre.
Oh, of course it is, yes, my apologies.
V8 engine, just uprated somewhat from last year in P2 form, but you know, with the new LMP1 rules this season, that car is running a 3.4 litre V8.
A huge amount of work going on around that car. Different wishbones front and rear to accommodate the different tyre sizes. The car's obviously heavier than it was last year.
And on board the LMP2 class leading Lola HPD, Scott Tucker at the wheel there. Got a massive amount of racing experience over the last few years with Scott Tucker driving all sorts of different cars in Ferrari Challenge, in SCCA, won a national championship again last year. I think it was his 3rd national championship actually, and also racing in the GT3 Cup, Porsche GT3 Cup this year as well, just to make sure. I don't know how he does it. He'll have done an awful lot of miles by the end of this week, well, Scott Tucker.
Oh my goodness me, we've got an easy up being blown across from the paddock area. Right, and that's the wind is getting up very, very significantly right across right angles to the back straight. And that's come from the paddock area.
That didn't happen 5 seconds later.
Yeah. The flags absolutely pinged on the flagstaffs. And that's not the only one. It looks like some people on driver's left spectating as well. Look to the left-hand side of the picture here. That's been picked up like a kite. And look at the white one there in the left-hand side of the picture.
Yeah,
that's just like a little twister.
Mini tornado.
Yeah, a little microburst is the technical term.
Yep.
I have to say I didn't know that, but the talent in the truck did. Thank you, Mr. Roller.
Crumbs.
Keen follower of meteorological phenomena, clearly. Another string to his bow that we didn't know about until now.
Great view looking over turn 1 there. And again, this packed crowd here, and just so much enthusiasm amongst the crowd. That's what what one loves about coming to Sebring. And the fans are not only having a good time, but they're knowledgeable about their racing as well. And even if they're not, they're going to have a good time. So it's still Tom Christensen leads for Audi now in car number 2, with the number 8 Peugeot having made that pit stop a few minutes ago. The number 2 car will be onto pit lane very shortly as soon as the pits are open, which we expect to happen probably this time around. Anthony Davis in 2nd place in car number 7 for Peugeot, and then Loic Duval is 3rd in number 10 Peugeot.
You know, the motor racing has always been a great proving ground for automotive manufacturers, or what's called OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. And none have integrated their street cars and their race cars better than Porsche, as Eric Bloss tells us.
The GT3 Cup car is built on the same assembly line as every other 911 built worldwide. They've been building the Cup car since '89, and roughly 1,400 of them have been built as of today. Porsche's R&D center is Weissach, Germany, where the engineers work on both the street car and the race car basically at the same time. So if they learn something on the track over the weekend, they will usually report that back and make proper adjustments to their street cars Porsche has been doing this research at the racetrack since the inception of the 911. They've brought all the technology that they learn on at the racetrack back home with them to make their street cars better since day one.
And if anybody knows what they're talking about, it's Eric. He's been building engines and being part of the GT3 Cup campaign for ever and a day. It's the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida. If you're just joining us, it's 12 minutes past the hour. That's the time that we take a look back and bring you guys up to date in vision here on ESPN3.com. Starting the race, Peugeot, pole position. Mike Rockenfeller and Alan McNish snapping in the heels of the pole sitter, and McNish decided to take the fight with the French manufacturer straight away. Got up in the second position, but couldn't get any further. Indeed, a few laps later, his good friend Alec Verns dragged past him on the start-finish line and made the pass to demote McNish into third position and make it a Peugeot 1-2. In the GT category, pole position for the aging 430 Ferrari. Had to give that up to Ollie Gavin, who had a great first stint, but Jimmy Bruni went side by side through turn number 1, and eventually by turn number 3 the pass was made. Not so good news for the BMWs in GT. Puncture to the left front caused by contact. The 56 car losing the tyre carcass, but they've fought back since then. And on the restart after that yellow flag, Alan McNish thought he could go for glory, got up alongside the lead Peugeot, but the door was slammed in his face. The same BMW you saw a few moments ago, well, that's not the end of its dramas, as the Jaguar XKR came into it. Nice bit of recovery driving, and off again. The Jaguar gets a stop and go penalty. The BMW lives to fight another day. Audi number 1, 2 punctures in quick succession for Mike Rockenfeller, disappointing the young German. The Le Mans winner spending some time behind the wall, but he's back up to 13th position, or at least Timo Bernhard is. Then Pat Long and Magnussen coming together, and the man who lost out the most really had nothing to do with the original accident. Johannes van Overbeek in the Extreme Speed Motorsports Ferrari. The car out of the race. The good news is he's not too bad, and he's already been talking to us. The pole-sitting 51 car with a penalty for pit lane infractions, and that cost him 20 minutes. Let's go back live now as the leaders are on pit lane. Rick de Bruyl.
Tom Christensen brings the Audi in. They're going to make a driver change as well. Capella gets in the car as they are going to work. They've got the fuel. They're ready to go. Meanwhile, you can see the situation where the driver getting out is responsible for helping the driver who's getting in, securing the belt. The fuel is off. Now they go to work on the car. They said to keep the fuel mixture up. These tires will take about a lap or two to get up to speed. So the job is to make sure that you have the fuel setting right for when they go out so they don't get carried away. Now, this is the first stint for Dindo Capello getting into the car. He gets in, gets out. Now down to Kelly.
Well, and the plan here at Highcroft is fuel only, and the team really giving kudos to Simon Pagenaud for holding off that Peugeot. They said things are going to according to plan, that they want to stay on the lead lap. They don't have the speed to chase down the Audi or Peugeots, but if they can stay on that lead lap, they can hopefully take advantage of any trip-ups that the two big manufacturers might have.
It's a very, very good point from Kelly Stavist. Before that, you heard Rick de Bruyl down at Audi. Now, the GT cars will come in the next time around. Before that happens, we'll take a short break from the action. You're watching the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Fresh from Florida.
There was a town held captive by an evil gas pump. It fed on people's hard-earned money. But along came the Michelin Man, who reminded them the right tire changes everything. And with fuel-efficient tires in place, that evil gas pump wasn't so evil anymore. Michelin Energy Saver AS tires can help save up to 109 gallons of fuel. Michelin, a better way forward.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil, ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil, made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
As ever, it's a knowledgeable crowd trackside here at Sebring. It's a big crowd as well, and by that I don't mean that everybody is tall or wide. I mean there are an awful lot of them. We're back in Central Florida for our regular date with the start of the international sports car season. The Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring. Not everyone enjoying the racing by looking at the cars on the track. Some hospitality as well, as far as the trackside entertainment is concerned. There are the people who are about to go to work. I somehow think that they would like some refreshment, but they have no chance for that as the GT cars are about to come in.
Yeah, just before they do, a great shot of those people on the side of the racetrack there. Lots of cameras there. This is a great place to photograph the cars. You can get up relatively close, and there's many places no fences in the way out. You can get some great pictures here at Sebring.
So Dindo Capello is in the Audi, and the GT cars are coming in. We'll give you an update on how all the pit stops have shaken out at the moment, in a moment rather. But let's go down to the pit lane and take the main protagonists in the GT category as they head to our pit lane team.
BMW getting ready to come in. They've got both cars they're bringing in, running 1 and 2. The difference is the 56 car is going to come in and have a driver change. In this case, they've got Joey Hand in the car. Joey Hand's going to get out. Andy's going to get in the car. One of the things Bobby Rahal was just pointing out to the team just a moment ago is that they have a free pit lane from here on out. The car ahead of them is the Peugeots. The Peugeots obviously came in with the LMPs, the LMP1 cars that came in just a moment ago. As a result, when they go to leave, they're not going to have anybody in their way. They're going to be able to blend right out. Let's go down to Kelly.
And Antonio Garcia and the 03 Corvette make their way into the pits. They've already fueled. They're now going to get some fresh Michelins on there. Garcia, a veteran of a variety of different sports cars, has joined Corvette as a third member for these endurance races for a couple of years. Everything going smoothly there, but Garcia telling me about this race, he said it was the traffic has been such a big deal, not just because of the number of cars on the track, but he said that the speeds between a couple of the classes are so close it makes passing that much more difficult and more likely to get caught up in some incidents.
Kelly Stavist and Rick de Burl down there in the pit lane. Now, I'm going to wait for confirmation on this from timing and scoring, but I saw a red 458 Italia getting out ahead of the BMWs there, Jeremy, and I think that might have been Dave Beatty Sims and the guys down at Risi turning the Mika Salo car around from 4th position exceptionally quickly.
I hope so. I'm just hoping that there wasn't some kind of a miscue, because that was an awfully quick stop by those guys.
Well, if they haven't done tyres, it's possible.
It is, and I'm certainly, it probably is the case. I'm hoping it is, because it was remarkable. He came out a long way ahead.
I was looking to see if it might have been one of the other red Ferraris, and I couldn't see that it would be the luxury racing car. Well, no, there is. Now that's the Risi car. That is the Risi car, and no, it's not. Car. It is the luxury car. Yep. Ah, there you go.
Which has had some problems. That's some way down the order now.
So he got. I say that's confused me a lot, because that shouldn't have happened because of the
I don't think that was the
car
we saw coming out of the pits, though. I'm sure it wasn't. There it is.
Now there, behind the bright green of the Chrome car. Yeah, yes, it is. It is. Yeah, absolutely. See, with the good thing about this new pass-by rule is that you shouldn't really get anybody who's out of kilter in front of the leaders. So that is, guys, round of applause to Risi Competizione. Again, they are the big game players. They've turned that 458 around. There's the 2 BMWs.
Yeah, with the flying lizard car right in there as well. That's got itself right back into contention now. Which we can have a chat with Patrick Long, actually, find out his perspective on an incident earlier on. I'm sure we'll do that.
Yeah, you know what? Pat is such an honest driver. He will give you an honest answer to an honest question.
Class act.
No, he's you know,
he's a star, actually. He's an absolute gem.
He's done road racing the right way, because he comes across to Europe whenever he can. He is one of the great American road racers. And I say that with no fear or favour.
Yeah, and hats off to Porsche for picking him up. Oh, best part of 10 years ago now, and he went over to England to race in Formula Ford. He turned down actually an opportunity with the Skip Barber scholarship to race over here in the Skip Barber series. He went over to England to race in Formula Ford, and Porsche saw that, and they gave him an opportunity. Here's somebody who's prepared to do what it takes to make it in the sport, and didn't have a huge budget, but they gave him an opportunity to Porsche, and he's taken full advantage. He's still with it now. Here's the number 10 car. I was surprised that didn't come in last time around. He should have done.
Well, maybe he's what he's done.
He must have missed a call, frankly.
Well, no, I think what he's done is he's gone around, hasn't he? Because he was battling with Pagenaud.
No, he was on the lead lap, so this is costing him.
They've dropped the back end of that car. Oh, the rear jacks on that car, the rear air jacks. Plus rapide, s'il vous plaît. Yes, much quicker than that. They have got a problem with the rear air jack on that. It's not holding pressure. Twice the back end of that car dropped down. You asked whilst we were in commercial break whether he'd been in. The answer is no, because there he is now.
Yeah, I did, exactly. And that's he's going to come out at the back of the pack now, so certainly a costly mistake. I guess all I can think is he must have missed the call to come in earlier on, because I was wondering why that car didn't come in along with numbers 2 and 7 and 01, of course.
Right, let's put everybody's minds at rest before we go back to green flag racing. Jeremy, here's how it stands in GT. Mika Salo did get out in the 062. Reese, little golf clap there from us in the booth. Augusto Farfus in second place in the 55 BMW, so he got ahead of the 56 car because they were the other way around when they came in.
Driver change.
Good point, and Rick did tell us that. Sorry, Rick, I was listening. Antonio Garcia in third place in the 03. That is the first of the Corvettes. Now, we had the little golf clap for Reese Competizione. Dave Beaky Sims, who's been around the sport more years than he probably likes to be reminded, is down to tell us just how good his pit stop really was with Rick de Bruyne.
Yeah, standing by with David Sims. We won't ask him how long he's been around racing. I think he knows the answer to that question. But let's talk about the pit stop you just had. You did a great job. You got out fast. Did you do anything to shorten it up, or was it just good movement?
No, it was a good call by the engineers, our strategy people. Plus, we didn't change wheels. We just did the drinks bottle, fuel, and the data card.
So no tires. Got back out quickly.
Mika was happy with the tires.
Now are you going to lose? The BMW has been doing what they were talking with them earlier, and they were saying when the tires were going away in the Ferrari, they were gaining on them. So are you going to lose in that department?
I don't think so. No, not with this set.
Has the tire been consistent over the long run?
Yeah, especially in this heat, they've been pretty good.
All right, now let's talk about the car itself. Are you happy with the car?
Yeah, very. I mean, it's the first time we've raced the car, and we haven't had any chance of testing it as such. So this is straight out the box, straight on the track, basically. Sebring, it's tough here, so it's going well at the moment.
So how does it compare to the 430?
Oh, it's much quicker. It's much quicker.
Easier to work on?
No.
You can't have everything.
No.
All right, David Sims. At least he's happy his guy's in the lead, even if he can't work on the car any easier.
Yeah, he says no, it's not easier to work on, but I think that's... I mean, it is a lot more intricate, that car, because like Mika Salo told me, and we said earlier on, Mika said it's more like a race car, so it's more, it's less production based perhaps than the 430. But of course, the main reason Dave says it's not as easy to work on is because they haven't worked on it very long. They've only had the car for a week, so once they've worked on that car for a few months, then they'll become more familiar with it, and the processes that are involved will become a little bit easier.
Yeah, they ran the Michelotto, the Ferrari concessionaire for racing cars. They ran the Michelotto, effectively their spare car or their development car at the Wheelsdown Winter Test here for a couple of reasons. One, to show it to some potential customers here in the United States, but also so the mechanics could get an idea of what the car looked like, because they knew they were going to get to only get a week away from one of the biggest races of the year. And once again, and I'll keep saying it, and I don't mind saying it, Racing Competizione are big race players. They pull it out when it needs to be done. Their record in the long races at Le Mans, sadly we won't have them at Le Mans this year. They've not taken up their entry, but they are big game players. Now, earlier on, the big incident was between Jan Magnussen and Pat Long. Johannes van Overbeek, we know, is all right. We've spoken to him. Let's hear one side of the story, the Porsche side, from Pat Long.
Patrick Long back behind the wall right now. Why did you guys come in? Why didn't you stay out to get that lap back?
Well, the way the scenario fell, we weren't going to get the wave by because other teams had stayed out. So Thomas knows what he's doing. We all sort of had a couple questions there, but he knows what he's doing. I feel bad that we're having to get a wave by. I put ourselves in a pretty tough position. I apologize to the 4 guys. I didn't mean to get into Jan. I just got caught out by a huge bump underneath in 17. We were running each other really clean. We knew it was early in the race, and I just screwed up.
How was the car after that contact?
Car's okay. We just got to rally through. We'll get our lap back. Thomas is a genius on that side of things, and we'll hopefully be there at the end. But there's a lot of pace from the Corvette, Ferrari, and BMW boys, so we got more than just the lap to get back. But we'll keep working on the car, and hopefully we'll be there at the end.
Talk about the track condition. There's been a lot of incidents. I know there's some debris floating around. People are complaining about a greasy surface. What does it feel like?
Yeah, it's tricky out there, but that's the same for everybody. A lot of dirt was filled in where some of the potholes were had formed during the week, and so a lot of that got sprayed on the track initially. So if you get offline, it's really, really tricky. But, we'll just battle through. This is Sebring. There's nothing fun about this place, but that's why it's so prestigious to win, because it is that tough.
All right, good luck.
2 comments I'll make about that. Exactly as we said, he's a class act, puts his hands up, says he apologised, and you know what? I'll guarantee you he's already been down to the 4 car and to ESM to straighten things out and say sorry. The other thing is, straight answer to a straight question.
I feel I could have done that interview myself with Jamie, because I knew that's exactly what Patrick was going to say. Having seen the incident there from several different angles and different times, that is exactly the response I expected from Patrick Long. I mean, as I said earlier on, he is a class act. Yes, he made a mistake. Hey, everybody makes mistakes.
The safety car has disappeared back into the pit lane, and we start with the GTC leader at the head of the field. And
4 cars battling away.
Yeah, absolutely, and that means that Pedro Lamy has to pick his way through and uses the awesome torque and power of the 3.7 V8 Peugeot diesel. The TDI disappears, or the HDI, excuse me, disappears through those in the blink of an eye. Now, where is Dindo Capello? He's 3.5 seconds behind on the restart. Answer, there is the silver and red of Dindo Capello fighting his way through GTs and GTCs as he comes through turn number 4 onto the back straight under the walkover bridge, and Dindo Capello can't afford to be held up here as the leader comes down with a clear track and a green flag waving to turn number 7. Here is the Dyson car as well, right in front of Dindo Capello. Oh, look behind there, that's Marc Genet. Marc Genet, the 7 Peugeot, is just about, well, if he had a trunk, he would have been in the Audi's trunk there as they were under braking for turn 7, and it's very bumpy there. And in fairness, as we look down from the Porsche helicopter camera, that was pretty decent driving by Marc Genet, because it's so easy, Jeremy, on cold tyres with the excitement of a restart and on the bumps into 7 to misjudge your braking.
Very much so, particularly when you're offline as well as he was there. I mean, cars all around him, cars with vastly different performance capabilities as well. Those GT Challenge cars know nothing like the grip or the downforce or the braking capability of the P1 cars. So everybody there did an excellent job to keep everything under control. But what about this battle for GT Challenge? There's 4 cars there, nose to tail at the restart. You've got to love it.
And got to take the green flag. How nervous do you think those 4 were, knowing that the leaders were right up their spoilers?
And again, just an explanation of that. When we get back to a restart, if the order's been shuffled behind the pace car, then they reset the field such that the first of the class leaders is, whichever class that is a car that takes the restart ahead of the rest of the field. So it's happened this time to be GT Challenge.
So it's not to break up a class battle.
Absolutely.
We had that last year, it worked really well, and now with the pass by, and we've got a puncture. This is the CRS Ferrari. They have not had a good day. CRS Racing, Pierre Arret, Sean Lynn, and the Kiwi Roger Willis. Now, CRS are a very, very accomplished team, and running in the Roger Wills, excuse me, running in the European Championships, but that looks like a right front problem for that car. Andrew Kokory, well known as a racer himself, ex-Autosport BRDC Young Driver of the Year.
I think he was, yeah.
Got well up to Formula 3, then drifted away from racing.
Well,
got involved with it.
One of many that ran out of the budget, of course.
Yeah,
really hard trying. I mean, great talent. He did some little bit of Atlantic racing over here as well. Andrew did. He tried to, at least. So just trying everything he could to make a career out of it. And hats off to him. Okay, he didn't make it as a driver, so here he is now running a team.
And has gone back to doing driving in GT and loves it, absolutely loves it. And I'll tell you how good that team is as we look at the traffic jam coming out to turn 7. Look at that. They've been selected by McLaren to develop the GT2 version of the MP, the Natalie titled MP12C 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
And Chris Niarkos, of course, is the other part owner there of CRS.
GT battle then on board with Andy Priaulx, the Guernseyman, behind his erstwhile World Touring Car teammate, Augusto Farfus. Interesting they've split those two guys up, but they will be the constants in the BMW Motorsport team throughout the ILMC season. These guys we won't see back in America until Petit Le Mans in the first weekend of October. The Rahal Letterman Lanigan operation entering these cars under the BMW Motorsport banner in order to gain the maximum number of points for the ILMC 7-race championship. And because they've done that in this high points scoring round of the ALMS, then it will be madness then to rebrand themselves as RLL and lose those team points later. Andy just showing the headlights of the BMW to Augusto Farfus there to say, hey, come on, mate, I'm behind you. You get a bit of a wiggle on it.
Yeah, and Andy taking over there from Joey Hander that last round of pit stops. But what a remarkable...
Nice job. P1 +0, nice and smooth here.
A remarkable job by that 56 team to get that car, having had those problems early on. It was a lap behind, get back and into the lead of the race in GT was Joey Hand before handing over to Andy Priaulx.
That's another class act, though. You know, Joey Hand, a driver that perhaps hasn't had the recognition he deserves in some respects, I would say. And finally, people thinking, I don't know, this guy's a bit talented, actually.
Another Team USA scholarship winner, if I might say, back in the year 2000, he went over to England racing Formula Palm Rowdy, and he's another guy. I mean, he doesn't come from money. He's made a career for himself because he can do the job in and out of the car, and he works so hard to make opportunities happen for himself and then take advantage of those opportunities when they crop up.
Pedro Lamy then leads by exactly 10 seconds to Dindo Capello, and that's what traffic does to you. You lose time here. So difficult to catch up. The GT2 battle, it's only one of 7 at the moment, because first down to Mark Lieb in 7th.
No, he is actually
he's a lap down, and he won of 6th. Then Jimmy Bruni the last on the lead lap. But of course, those aren't the only classes here in the American Le Mans Series or the ILMC here at Sebring, as the internecine battle between the two BMWs continues. And they've got one of the ESM cars trying to make their way back and get a lap back there as well. That'll be the 001 car, the 002 car with Rob Bell on board, won't it, coming through. Rob Bell getting the call for that drive, the GT2 champion from Le Mans Series, in fact multiple GT2, used to drive with Jimmy Bruni. Many people say they are indeed one person, they can't be told apart. As the Oregon Matmut car makes a very aggressive move into turn 17, and the GT battle streams through. Let's not forget the other classes, as I was saying. João Barbosa leads P2 in 9th position overall, and just 5 laps off the overall lead. João, discovered by Martin Short of Roll Centre back in the United Kingdom, out at St Ives there, not a million miles from where we are now actually, and shortly gave João his first break in prototypes and has repaid him handsomely, and now João numbers quite an impressive list of teams on his CV, including Brumos Racing. Now there's a full course caution, and there is
Alex Job Racing.
That is a big story. That's the pole sitting LMP, the GTC car, excuse me. And we should any second now see those twin flags being shown to the lead. In fact, they're already out there. This was the pole sitting car. Lee Keane put this car on pole position in GTC. Alex Job swept the podium here last year in the GTC category. Former American Le Mans Series champions in GT2 as it was then. And that looks to be something pretty terminal, Jeremy, for the car to grind to a halt like that.
Yeah, unusual to see a Porsche stopped at the side of the racetrack with no activity there. Brian Wong driving the 023 battery tender car at the moment, and he's pulled off there at the exit of turn 16 on the right-hand side of the track, and it's going to take a while to get that car out of the way. So once again, an interruption. This is our 5th full course caution of the day. And what this is going to do is make sure all the leaders now are back bunched up together. When we came back to that restart last time around, they were all strung out amongst all sorts of other traffic. But now they've worked their way through that traffic, and they should be pretty much nose to tail.
Yeah, well, Dindo Capello looking forward from his car. And guess what? There's Pedro Lamy right ahead of him. And how close are we to the last yellow flag? Less than 15 minutes?